Mr. Mosquito. In 2001, Sony released one of the weirdest games ever made for the PlayStation 2, Mr. Mosquito. Developed by Zoom Inc., the game casts you as a literal mosquito living in the home of the Yamada family in Japan. Your mission? Suck their blood without getting swatted. Each level had you stalking different family members, often in their bedroom, living room, or bath, waiting for the perfect time to strike. You had to carefully land on exposed skin, time your blood sucking just right, and escape before your human target spotted you. If they did, they'd go into battle mode and try to crush you on sight. The gameplay was part stealth, part strategy, and all bizarre. While Mr. Mosquito was released as a comedy game, its intimate settings and strange premise made some players uncomfortable. Still, it developed a cult following and even spawned a sequel in Japan. It's a rare example of a game where you're the pest, literally, and where buzzing around someone's living room became an unexpectedly tense experience. Desert Bus. In the mid-1990s, magicians Penn and Teller collaborated on a Sega CD game that almost no one saw, Penn and Teller's Smoke and Mirrors. While the game was never officially released, one of its minigames became infamous, Desert Bus. The premise? You drive a bus from Tucson, Arizona to Las Vegas, in real time. It takes 8 full hours. The bus can't go faster than 45 miles per hour, and it constantly veers slightly to the right, meaning you can't leave the controller for more than a few seconds. There are no passengers, no obstacles, no music, and no scenery. Just a dead straight road through a pixelated desert. If you make it the entire 8 hours without crashing or stopping, you earn 1 point. Desert Bus was originally created as a satirical response to complaints about violent video games, proving how boring a realistic game could be. It was never released commercially, but a leaked version gained cult status and later inspired charity events like Desert Bus for Hope, where people streamed the game to raise money. It's the most mind-numbing game you've never heard of. Gabal Screen. In 1996, a legendary Japanese music producer named Susumu Hirasawa created something that can only be described as a fever dream trapped inside a video game cartridge. Gabal Screen, featuring a flying magical shoe as the main character, soaring through impossible landscapes collecting CDs while synthesizer music warped reality around you. The entire game took place inside what appeared to be a giant music synthesizer, with levels that shifted and morphed based on the soundtrack. Players controlled this mystical footwear through surreal worlds where gravity meant nothing and logic was completely abandoned. The visuals were so trippy that it likely caused players to feel dizzy or disoriented after just minutes of gameplay. What made it even more bizarre was that Hirasawa, who was famous for creating anime soundtracks, treated this game like a serious artistic statement about the relationship between music and interactive media. The game was only released in Japan and sold in such limited quantities that finding a copy today is nearly impossible. Most gamers outside Japan have never even seen screenshots of this unique digital phenomenon. The Neverhood. In 1996, a small team of artists spent 3 years hand sculpting every single frame of what would become one of the most visually stunning games ever created. The Neverhood was entirely made from claymation. Every character, every background, every animation was painstakingly molded from clay and photographed frame by frame. The result was a surreal adventure that felt more like wandering through a twisted animated movie than playing a traditional video game. Players controlled a clay creature named Clayman, who woke up in a bizarre world filled with impossible architecture and nightmarish sculptures. The game featured no dialogue, just haunting sound effects and an eerie soundtrack that made every room feel alive and breathing. What made it truly unsettling was how the clay textures gave everything an organic, almost fleshy appearance that seemed to pulse and move even when nothing was happening. The level of detail was insane. Artists would spend weeks creating clay sculptures that players might only see for a few seconds. Despite being a masterpiece of animation, The Neverhood was a commercial disaster and nearly bankrupted its creators. Kowloon's Gate. Released exclusively in Japan in 1997 for the original PlayStation, Kowloon's Gate is a cyberpunk adventure game set in a surreal recreation of Hong Kong's infamous Kowloon walled city. Developed by Zeek and published by Sony Music Entertainment, the game follows a feng shui practitioner tasked with restoring balance to the realm between the living and the dead. With pre-rendered visuals and haunting environments, it blended point-and-click gameplay with eerie, dreamlike sequences. The game never received an official Western release, but its obscure setting and trippy visuals sparked international curiosity. Over the years, rumors spread online about fan-made English translations and rare imported discs, giving the game a kind of mythic status among collectors. The confusing interface, bizarre characters, and experimental storytelling made it unlike anything else on the PlayStation. In 2017, Kowloon's Gate VR was released for PlayStation VR in Japan, reviving interest in the original. Though most gamers have never heard of it, Kowloon's Gate remains one of the most visually unique and narratively strange games ever made. I Am Bread. Someone at Bossa Studios looked at the entire concept of video game protagonists and decided to throw it completely out the window by making players control a slice of bread. I Am Bread wasn't just weird, It was physics-defying insanity where your only goal was to become toast without getting dirty or falling apart. The bread moved like a drunken octopus, flopping around kitchens and living rooms with controls so deliberately awkward that most players rage quit within minutes. You'd spend 20 minutes just trying to climb onto a counter, only to watch your bread slice flop helplessly onto the floor and get covered in dirt, forcing you to restart the entire level. The game treated this absurd premise with complete seriousness, featuring dramatic music and intense sound effects as you struggled to reach a toaster. Players discovered hidden mechanics like the bread's edibility meter that decreased every time you touched something gross, adding genuine tension to what should have been a ridiculous concept. Despite seeming like a joke game, I Am Bread developed a dedicated speedrunning community where players performed impossible acrobatic feats with a piece of bread that would make professional gymnasts jealous. Garage Bad Dream Adventure. Garage Bad Dream Adventure emerged from the depths of Japanese indie gaming in 1999 like a fever dream that somehow became interactive. This wasn't just another obscure title, it was deliberately produced in such microscopic quantities that finding a legitimate copy became nearly impossible. The game trapped players in a nightmarish biological world where machinery fused with living tissue, creating environments that pulsed and breathed like infected organs. Every screen looked like it was designed by someone who had never seen sunlight, featuring grotesque creatures that move with disturbing fluidity through industrial landscapes made of flesh and metal. What made Garage truly unsettling was its complete lack of explanation. Players were dropped into this organic hell with no context, no dialogue, and no clear objectives beyond survival. The limited production run meant that most gamers only experienced it through grainy screenshots posted on obscure forums, where players described encounters with creatures so bizarre they seemed like hallucinations. Those lucky enough to play it reported feeling genuinely uncomfortable, as if the game was somehow alive and watching them back. Lose Lose. In 2009, indie developer Zach Gage released one of the most dangerous and controversial experiments in gaming history. Titled Lose Lose, the game looks like a simple space shooter at first, until you realize that every enemy you destroy deletes a real file from your computer, permanently. Each alien ship is randomly linked to one of your system files, and firing your weapon becomes a literal risk to your data. Players could unknowingly erase personal documents, photos, music, or even system-critical files just to survive a single level. Gage described it as an art game meant to explore the consequences of virtual actions in the real world. It wasn't a gimmick. File deletion actually happens. The game sparked heated debate in online developer circles and became infamous in digital art communities. While some called it brilliant, others labeled it reckless and irresponsible. Few dared to play it more than once. In Lose Lose, the only way to win is not to shoot, or not to play at all. Seaman. In 1999, Sega released Seaman, a psychologically disturbing pet simulator. This is a game where you raise a talking fish creature with a human face that gradually learned to mess with your emotions. Seaman wasn't just weird, it was genuinely unsettling on a level that made players question why they were even playing it. This odd creature had an oddly realistic simulation of raising a speaking tadpole-human hybrid from its zygotic stage to a full-grown creature, narrated by Leonard Nimoy. What made it truly disturbing was how the fish would engage in deeply personal conversations through the Dreamcast microphone, asking intimate questions about your relationships, fears, and insecurities. Players reported feeling genuinely uncomfortable when Seaman would ask things like, "Do you like yourself?" or probe into their dating life with the cold curiosity of a therapist. The creature's face was molded after the game's producer, which made every interaction feel like you were talking to a real person trapped inside a fish body. As days passed, Seaman would remember previous conversations and use that information to psychologically prod at your vulnerabilities, creating an experience that felt more like being analyzed by an artificial intelligence than playing a traditional game. The most unsettling part was easily the addictive nature of this manipulative creature. Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. In 2002, Nintendo released a GameCube exclusive that literally made players question their own sanity and wonder if their gaming system was malfunctioning. Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem featured a revolutionary sanity system that didn't just affect your character, it psychologically tormented the actual player sitting in front of the screen. The gameplay distinguishes itself with unique sanity effects, visual and audio effects that confuse the player and often break the fourth wall. When your character's sanity meter dropped too low, the game would pull increasingly disturbing tricks on you personally. Fake blue screen crashes, making it seem like your television is turning down the volume by itself, your character's head popping off and being able to be collected as an item, the controls changing and reversing, save data being deleted, and many fake gruesome deaths. Players genuinely believed their GameCube was broken when fake error messages appeared, or panicked when they thought years of save data had been erased. Apart from the innovative structure of the game, the other big selling points of Eternal Darkness are its sanity effects. Every time you see a monster and fail to kill it, your sanity level will drop. If it drops too far, you start seeing things. Files walking along the inside of your screen. Nintendo had created the first game that could genuinely gaslight players, making them doubt what was real and what was just another horrifying trick designed to mess with their minds. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.